budget numbers released today?
No, it's a huge concern. One thing is clear, the Sask party has blown the boom and thrown Saskatchewan into deficit, and this is hugely unacceptable for Saskatchewan people. The fact that they tabled a budget that was so irresponsible and so reckless with runaway spending and irresponsible budget revenue setting has a huge consequence for Saskatchewan people. The fact that here at this point in time, we went from a red-hot economy with over $2.3 billion in rainy day funds, and to, at this point, be tabling an exhausted rainy day fund, stripped equity from our crowns, and a budget that's $1 billion deficit is of huge shame for Saskatchewan people.
And what do these charts represent here?
The charts specifically highlight some of the specific concerns that we've raised from day one on this budget. If we look at this chart right here, it highlights the spending pattern of the New Democrats up until 2007, and then the spending pattern of the Sask party. What we see is at election time, in the past 2 years, we've seen over a 32% spending increase. This is not sustainable. It's runaway spending. My grandmother would call this drunken sailor spending, and it's a problem. It's something that we said on day one on budget day that had to be reined in. Certainly, it's no small part of why we have $1 billion deficit at this point. The chart to my left here is the burn rate on capital. That's not sustainable. We have our savings fund, our rainy day fund that is meant to build for the future. And here at this point in time, it's really just starting to rain in Saskatchewan. What we see is we had $2.6 billion in this fund in 2008-09, handed to the Sask party, as well as that red-hot economy. And in just 2 years, we've seen the burn rate represented by the red here, a $1.4 billion being exhausted in 08-09, and now this year we see $374 million being exhausted, and now today we hear that that's going to be expanded to over $500 million. So this number right here is down to $600 million left in our rainy day fund, from $2.6 billion down to just over $600 million. That's of huge concern. If I take you over to one last example here that we have as a visual here that I think is very compelling and telling, is that from day one we've criticized the potash revenues that were put forward by this government. We knew we were in the grips of worldwide recession, and yet this government proceeded not with something that reflected the 5-year average of potash revenues, excluding the anomalous year of 2008, which would have been $260 million, but they said we're going to break records. Amidst a recession, when potash producers in our own backyard are scaling down production in historic ways, and we know the biggest buyers in the world, India, China, Brazil, are no longer buying potash at in the scale that they have, they say we're going to break records and put forward a $2 billion, what we call fantasy land budget projection. Now, what we've displayed here today is the reality. And unfortunately, the reality is $100 million, a fraction of the $2 billion fantasy land budget put forward by the Sask party, and this is of huge concern. It all goes to speak to the fact that this was a problem of its own making and should have been addressed some time ago. It's an unprecedented case of mismanagement, and the Saskatchewan New Democrats are going to hold this government to account on this front.